The shot hit me in my side, and it dug into my flesh, but didn't penetrate the skin. It would just be a painful bruise. I knew it was the effect of the system. I had so much stats, but something else. I didn't know what it was, but it didn't matter. I stepped over his body, used the emergency stairs, and entered the second-floor hallway. The stairs didn't lead to a third floor, the security measure there, I suppose, but it meant that I'd have to kill everybody on the second that I stalked through, revolvers in hand. People came from around corners and died. People barreled through doors and died. People ran from me, and they died as well. Everybody in the building had a gun. Everybody was fair game. Everybody would die. I killed my way across the second floor, reached the stairs on the opposite end, and climbed to the third. I wondered vaguely if you had to walk across the entire damn building to get to the top floor. There was probably a way up there that I didn't recognize. I reached the third floor, which is a penthouse of sorts. It was filled with decorations, more a museum than anything else. Swords, tables, vases, animal heads. Charles Wordsworth had clearly been a man of affluence. I didn't have much time to take any more in before I was tackled by a mountain of a man. He was hiding right by the entrance and used sheer girth to stop me. My guns flew across the room, and he lifted me off the ground with pure strength. He was clearly stronger than the average human should be. I could see the veins on his butch-looking face bulge as he contorted with rage. He grabbed me by the throat with both hands, intended to choke me out. I pulled back the thumbs on both of his meaty hands, breaking them. He let me go, and I immediately crouched down and punched him in the balls. To his credit, he didn't crumble, but he sure froze. When I kicked him on one side of his knee, breaking it immediately, that made him crumple. I went to stomp on his head, but he grabbed my ankle and twisted, forcing me to compensate by twisting with it. Letting myself fall to the ground, I grabbed a unique-looking vase on the way down and bashed him over the head with it. He flinched. The vase was thick ceramic and incredibly heavy. It shattered over his head, matting his hair with blood, but all that was left in my hand was a long, sharp shard, which I immediately tried to jam through his eye. He blocked it with the palm and punched me in the face with the other hand. The punch would have destroyed the face of a normal man, but I was even further from human than he was, and barely even felt it. I grabbed the fist and forced the hand away, and leveraged the ceramic blade and forced it over the hand, leaving us face to face, both hands occupied. I headbutted him and his head, and it bounced off the floor and the hard wood. I headbutted him again and again and again until I felt the strength leave his hands. His face was a mess of blood. So was mine, and I ripped the ceramic blade straight through the joints of his fingers and stabbed him through his eye with it. He finally stopped moving. I untangled myself just in time to see men begin to flood into the room from behind the door on the opposite end. They must have crowded into the office in a last-ditch effort to defend him and hoped their close-quarters specialist could take me out. He would have if I wasn't such a monster. These people clearly weren't very experienced, as their planning had been clearly atrocious all the way across the board. I mean, perhaps they were people that were dragged into a conflict that they clearly did not understand, forced to pick up weapons due to circumstances beyond their control. Well, aren't we all? I drew my sawed off as they raised their guns. I flexed all the appropriate muscles as hard as I possibly could and pulled both triggers, and the recoil damn near wrenched my arm off, sending my barrel straight into the air. The resulting blast was like a cannon, spread out in hundreds of small points. There was more pellets than a buckshot round could possibly hold, and they hit with the force beyond gunpowder. The blast was deafening. The entire back wall turned into a beehive. The people exiting the room turned into paste, gore splashing far enough to reach me. I had a splitting headache now. That muscle clearly wasn't meant to be pulled quite that hard. Or maybe it's just because I'd headbutted a man with a skull like a bull. Probably both. I staggered to the other side of the room, fighting off the nausea, and the shotgun slipped from my hands. I didn't quite remember where the level action landed, and I hoped the blast didn't kill Mr. Woodstock, as I had words for him. My boots made a wet squishing sound as I staggered through the pile of gore and over the wreckage of the door. His office was quite a sight, decorated much like the room behind me, stinking of opulence. There had been a circular inscribed glass window on the wall behind him, its depiction too vague for me to bother deciphering. Charles Wood's work was alive. He had flipped over his expensive hardwood desk, hidden behind it. That saved his life. He poked his head out from behind it, checking the situation that he found himself in, and I was looming over him. He was a well-groomed older man, dressed immaculately and somehow possessing poise, despite him hiding behind a desk. He slowly rose, looked around, realized his situation, and slowly took a seat on his crocodile skin chair. He looked tired and defeated. "Why?" is all he asked, voice even older than he looked. "Your people burnt down my town." He thought for a moment. "The town of the insects? I was told it was populated by a bunch of monsters. Did you even think to talk it out?" He paused, then he laughed, and his face was an odd mixture of amusement, acceptance, and disdain. He responded to my question with one of his own. "Did you?" I drew my father's walker and shot Charles Woodsworth 6 times in the chest. Force of the system-enhanced blasts, sending his wheeled chair flying backwards straight through the stained glass. His body joined the rest of him. Just then, in front of my eyes, combat over. Down subjugated, reward distribution based on contribution. Bounty gained, 500,000 chips. Ascending performances, exceptional performance detected. Solo Sojourner, 100-man Slayer, Kingslayer Elite. Host marked as exceptional. Multiplying rewards due to exceptional performance. Error, fatal weapons, weakness detected, an exceptional host. Illiteracy, correcting. Skills gained, reconsolidating. Core progress, 532%. Bypassing stages. Forming Silver Core.